Hello everybody, how the devil are you? This is Sirhc for Sanitarium.FM. And this time, we're jumping back into the retro future of Troglobyte games,
HyperParasite,
a top-down twin-stick shooter with a twist. First things first, aesthetically, HyperParasite has been dunked in a tank of 80s neon, with everything from the font in the title to the kick-ass music being ripped straight from the decade that keeps on giving. The 80s might be the greatest decade of all time, creatively speaking, as there was 80s nostalgia that started back in the 90s and is still going strong today, which you can't say for any other period of time. Sure, sometimes you'll see throwbacks to the 90s or the 60s and 70s, but they go out of fashion almost as quickly as they came back in, with the lack of any real lasting power that the 80s possesses. And they're only really consistently popular with people like hipsters who ironically wear outfits like they were farm workers from the 20s. I guess the irony there being that most of them, the closest they've ever been to the farm is ordering organic produce because the major supermarket chains are too mainstream for their business. Wait, where was I? Oh yeah, HyperParasite uses a lot of obvious 80s homages for their post-apocalyptic twin-stick shooter. So, gameplay-wise, you play as the titular HyperParasite, a massive shadowy smoke-like tentacles. The parasite has the ability to move around freely, dash, which can be used to avoid and also attack things, and the tentacle swipe. And here's where the gameplay twist comes in. The tentacle swipe is used to infect your enemies and hijack their bodies. The effect of this is twofold. Not only do you get to use them as a literal human shield to protect your fragile, parasitic lack of a body, but you also get to use their strengths. Each enemy has their own attack, special, and stats. Generally, a melee character will be stronger and have a higher amount of hit points, while a ranged character will be weaker and survive fewer hits, with the trade-off of being able to avoid more damage while on the run and still scoring hits. Outside of the two main class distinctions, each enemy character has their own playstyle. Cops are ranged and can fire their pistol with moderate strength straight in the direction that they're facing. They also have a clip limit, so they need to reload once their shots are spent. Whereas, say, the paper girl, while also a ranged unit, throws two papers that do low damage and split out in a small V formation in the direction you're facing. They also have unlimited papers, so you don't need to reload or watch your clip count. Similarly, melee characters will have different range and damage to their attacks that you will need to take into consideration when selecting a host for your parasite. Now, what if you were surrounded by units you don't really like? Should you stay as the parasite? Well, no. It's never really a good idea to stay as the parasite because it's super squishy, and at any point, if you see a better unit, you can destroy your current host and snag them, assuming they don't destroy you before you grab them. You also have the choice of throwing a potential host at your enemies instead of taking them if you grab the wrong one by mistake, using them as a decently strong ranged attack. Each run you do is procedurally generated, and the waves of enemies are randomized as well, so it's more about quick reactions and luck than planning things out. Some areas will have things like barrels and cars strewed about as well. Some of these contain nothing, others have pickups, mostly in the forms of money which can be used to purchase upgrades you can find in store, and the rest of them will blow up. Prior to blowing up, you'll see a ring which indicates the area of effect the explosion will cover, so you can know how far to move to avoid it, and if you're lucky and skillful enough, you can also lure enemies in to feel the effects of the blast themselves. Some certain enemies also allow you to take their DNA after you defeat them, which can be used to power up your parasite and make it more formidable. And with roguelike elements, you can gain power-ups that will apply to future runs, making things easier for subsequent attempts. Which would be helpful, as I found the difficulty, even in the first area, very hard to overcome. Overall, the game is well made, with a winning art style, music, and overall feel. The replayability is high, with some runs going well enough to think, oh, I'm going to take another shot and see if I can just push it a little bit further, and other ends ending so quickly that you just think, well, that was a mulligan. One more try. The game is also in pre-alpha at the time of this review, so they have time to add more and balance the difficulty if it turns out that I'm not alone in being absolutely destroyed at the start. Current rating, 7 out of 10. Thanks for watching, Please leave your comments on the video, tell us your thoughts on HyperParasite, and what other 80s tropes they could use to make it even more retro cool. And of course, come by the station Discord and infect it with more conversations about gaming, music, and pop culture. Ciao for now.